Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast, the show where we help coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders build businesses that create massive impact. I'm Adam Roach, alongside my incredible co-host,
Jess Webber, and we're here today to bring you the best strategies, mindset shifts, and real-life success stories to help you level up in your coaching journey.
Whether you're launching your coaching business, scaling to 6 or 7 figures, or just looking for inspiration to push through, this podcast is your go-to resource.
We're bringing you expert insights, real talk, and actionable items every single episode. So if you're ready to take your coaching game to the next level,
then let's dive on in. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome back. Jess, I'm excited to be here with you, excited to be here with all of our listeners and our watchers. And Jess, I got to come out and almost be the jerk of the year starting off already. Because here's the thing, you guys are going to fail in 2026. You're going to fail. You're going to fail in 2026. Jess, don't stop me. I'm on a roll right now. And I just have to come out and say it because here's the challenge, you all. I'm not trying to be silly. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you're going to fail. Because you're going to try to change habits. You're going to try and change your identity. You're going to try and change your reality. Here's the thing, though. You all, who you saw in the mirror this morning is exactly who you are. It's exactly who you are. We have Jess, a coach from our past, Mr. Taki Moore. He has an amazing reel that's out right now. And I'm not going to repeat what he says in there, but he says, New Year, same mother effer. That's what he says. And here's what we want to talk to you all about today is you will fail in 26. These are the things that you are trying to do, Jess. Let's dive into this.
I think this is an incredible topic. And it's funny that you bring up Taki's reel because I hadn't actually seen that yet. But I came to you and I said, I want to talk about this concept of new year, new you, and how it's a complete load of crock because of the fact that, I mean, we've talked about, some of my favorite authors like or thought leaders, Benjamin Hardy and things like that. It's one of those spaces that you can't just, put on your superhero cape and suddenly things change. You have to be strategic with your behaviors. And the biggest piece of that is your environment, not yourself, because you can't change yourself the way that people think they can with New Year's resolutions. And so I'm excited about this topic because I think New Year's resolutions are really stupid.
Well, so we'll dive into all three of these, right? We'll dive into the habits, we'll dive into identity, we'll dive into reality. And it's the New Year's to me are the New Year's starters, right? The people who look at 12/01, January 1 of whatever year as like this new opportunity. Y'all, it's just another day. Another day. It's not a restart. It's not a refresh. It is truly another day. So if you think that you're going to start with all these grandiose ideas and goals, I love that about yourself. Though you're probably going to take on too many, right? You're probably going to take on too many. And then when you look at the habits that have to come with changing to reach those goals, that's too many habits. It's too many new habits. And you can't do that. And that's why I say, you're going to fail because we all have aspirational goals, dreams, ideas. Jess, we talked about it this morning in our L10, though not so aspirational and big picture. They were actual goals that we could step into.
Well, I think the key thing that you're identifying here is the fact that people try to create New Year's resolutions or collect a series of new habits that they believe will catapult them to that aspirational goal if they just implement it all at the same time. And that's why the New Year's resolution piece of this to me is so dumb, because it's not like you can wake up from December 31st to January 1st and literally change every behavior that hasn't allowed you to hit your goals. And suddenly you're successful, by January 31. It doesn't work like that. If you read people's thoughts and beliefs around building habits, you'll find different numbers, but you've got people like Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, one thing, that's a 66-day thing, 12-week year. What else is it? Even a 75 hard. All of those take roughly about a quarter or 3 months to implement one thing.
That's right.
And so if you're sitting there and you're trying to change 5 things, 10 things, like I'm going to wake up earlier, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to drink more water, I'm going to work out, I'm going to take my vitamins, that right there is 5 things. not to mention whatever you're choosing to do with social media or your business or your relationships. And so New Year's resolutions are literally 5 to 20 habits that people are trying to implement all at once. And that's why everybody falls off so fast. You can't make that many changes simultaneously.
Yeah, I hope you can, right? I hope there's some of you listening right now that you can do this. I hope that you can. Though,
human nature doesn't allow for that.
I agree. I definitely agree. So let's talk about what they can do real quick here in the habit space.
Okay.
So Jess, what would we suggest? What would you suggest first? Then I'll go. What would you suggest to someone who wants to change their habits? They want to become better at something and they know they have to change habits, whether that's eating, whether that's business, whether that's making money, whether that's going out and attracting clients. What would you suggest?
Well, habits are just a conditioned behavior response to your environment, to your goals, etc. So I would look at what is the big goal, right? What's the North Star? And what is probably the smartest, most strategic new conditioning that you can create for yourself, new behavior response. And I'd pick one that's going to move the needle towards the goal the most and focus on that one. Like I said, 3 months, make it become an unconscious behavior rather than a conscious one. And then as you add that in and it becomes an unconscious and a natural thing for you, then you can stack on other behaviors. So habit stacking is a strategy I love, but it's not putting them all in the calendar and saying they're all new at to-do list today.
Right. Yep.
What would you say?
That. Well, we did a podcast on this, I think, probably a month or so ago on the 6-week cycle. And inside that 6-week cycle, there is a process of you establishing a desired goal and then you looking at all the ideas that you have specifically to achieve that desired goal and laying it on almost like a filtering type map. And the filtering type map says, what is the highest impact thought and what is the easiest to implement action-wise? And pick that one, right? Pick that one that's going to have the highest impact and the easiest to implement. And that is the habit you should implement. I'll go back to years and years and years ago when John Maxwell taught me the acronym CAT for taking notes. And I think I've probably shared it on here. And then last time we heard him speak, Jess, he turned it from CAT to ACT, which ACT actually makes better sense than CAT does. But I'm going to go with my CAT.
I just always assumed you were dyslexic, but
yeah, no, he called it CAT for years. But here's what CAT stood for, or ACT, whichever way you want to look at it. C was change, A was apply, and T was teach. So anytime you're out there taking notes, whether you're at an event, whether you're watching this right here, you can take notes, whether you're on a YouTube, whatever it is, wherever you're in an educational space and you're taking notes, when you come across something that you like, put a C next to it that you want to change. When you come across something that you're learning that you want to apply, put an A. And anything that you feel like you want to teach, remember, teaching is the fastest way to learn something, you put a T. This is what John said, though. You have to go back when the event is over and put a 1 next to one C, a 1 next to an A, and a 1 next to a T. Because that is the one thing that you're going to change. That is the one thing you're going to apply. And that's the one thing you're going to teach out of all the CATs that you have in your notes. Let's bring this back to this. One habit changed in a specific cycle will have a massive impact. Now, this is what I did, Jess, is I was like, okay, I'm going to outsmart John Maxwell. So I went back and I said, okay, here's 1s. Now let me put 2s, what I want to apply, change, or teach next. And let me put 3s. That would be the third priority. And 4s. I never got past 1. It was always just 1 that when I would change something or I would apply it or I would teach it, everything else would be much better.
Well, you know that I can't not reference Benjamin Hardy. I already have this episode, but this makes me think of his concept of impossible goals and how he says when you set a bigger goal for yourself and you prioritize that bigger goal, it helps you determine those lesser goals and whether they're either going to be achieved along the way as a byproduct or they're going to be deemed unnecessary. Right. And I feel like this is the same kind of concept for us of if you have a big goal for yourself, whatever it is, and you're trying to create a conditioned response, a behavior, also known as a habit, that's going to get you towards that goal, figuring out, as you said, the biggest needle mover and the easiest thing to implement is exactly what I was talking about as well.
Yep.
What is going to get you there? And some of those other habits you want to create are either going to happen naturally along the way, though you're going to get stacked on, to use my language, or they're going to become moot and unnecessary. And you recognize that they were not relevant to the goal as much as you thought they were at the beginning.
Yep.
And so really it's prioritizing the habits for the goal outcome.
Yep, it is. And I've got that book right here that you were just referencing, the Science of Scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to pull out here on pages 26 and 27, just so you can go pay attention to that. Talks about the frame, talks about the floor, right? It talks about the focus aspect of that and how, Jess, you're so right. The bigger the goal, the less the focus is, right? The less that you will be doing because, again, nothing else really matters. And I love that.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because, we sit here and we talk about a 6-week game plan and then we talk about these massive goals. And some people might argue that those don't sound like they correlate, but they really do, because we have the big North Star goal in mind at all times. And we're choosing to be strategic and focus on only one thing, one habit, one behavior, one whatever in that 6-week game plan to expedite the process of hitting that goal faster, rather than letting our focus get diluted, which is what we know happens so frequently, especially in an entrepreneurial world.
So let's transition now to the changing of identity, right? I'm going to change my identity. I'm going to go learn new things. We are so conditioned. We are so creatures of habits. Y'all, who you see in the mirror, that beautiful person that you just saw this morning, when you looked in the mirror, that's who you are. That's your identity. What you have about yourself is who you really are. And now we see this when individuals are transitioning from a specific seat to a coach seat, that they feel their identity is changing. Their identity isn't changing. You're still that amazing person that you were sitting in that one seat to provide value for other people. Now you're just going from an amateur to a professional because you're going to start to charge somebody in that specific space. Your identity is not changing.
Well, it just like new year, new me. To them, it's new role, new me, or new title, new me, new company, new me, new position, new me, new salary, new me, new income, whatever the thing is. That thought process is one of those things that we see happens. And that thought process is also what creates imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Because people create some sort of narrative identity in their head of new title, new me. That new me has to show up this way, has to do this thing, has to be successful, has to whatever. So they create this entire identity in their heads. And then when their reality and their identity don't match, or their habits and their identity don't match, then they feel out of alignment. And they get distracted and they get frustrated and they lose focus on what the goal was because they were trying to create this entire new persona for themselves rather than authentically owning who they were and leveraging all of their past knowledge and experience to show up authentically in this new space.
So my mom, Jess, she might have raised ugly kids, but she didn't raise dumb ones. And I'm going to tell you why. I created the acronym REAL, Relevant, Experiential, Authentic, and Leaders because of this right here. Is when it's like, I've got to step into this new identity. I've got to become this person. I'm not a fan of be, do, have. I'm going to say it right here. I made a reel about it. I think maybe last year, a couple years ago. Be, do, have to me is garbage. Why? Because the only thing you need to do is go do. Right? Just go do. You don't be, you don't have, just go do, because that's who you are already. Your identity is already there. The people that are watching you know you as fill in the blank. Whatever it is you're doing right now, that's what they know you as. They may know you as a husband, a father, a wife, whatever it is. You don't need to change your identity.
No, it's truly owning who you are and being relational and connecting with people so that they know what you're currently doing.
Right.
So it's not, I'm putting on a new outfit or whatever. It's, hey, I am using everything that I've done and that you know me for to impact in this space today.
Yeah.
And I think when you can wrap your head around the fact that you're not changing your identity, you're changing how you impact through the identity that you currently have, it makes it a lot easier to combat that imposter syndrome and that frustration. And it helps you not build poor habits because you're trying to create a habit list for the identity that you've created the narrative of that isn't actually you. Because I think that's another reason why so many habits fail is because people are like, oh, well, in 2026, I am going to be the healthy, successful, whatever coach, right? And so I'm currently not healthy and I'm not successful. And so I need to create all these habits to be that healthy and successful coach. But then they get distracted because they're focused on health things and success things, and there's too much going on. And so when you step into a space of, I'm going to be a better version of myself, and I'm going to create this North Star goal for myself, and the steps and the habits and the activities that I do need to align with that, then you don't feel that pressure of showing up as the healthy, successful coach or whatever identity you've determined is the
Dan
right
Martell
one for
talked
you.
about that years ago, of stepping in to be the 10.0 version of yourself.
Yes.
Right. And that's the key there, is yourself. You're taking who you are right now and becoming the better version of yourself. And gosh, Jess, I mean, we can go down that black hole and get lost. Though
you know what's funny though is Dan Martell was coached by Benjamin Hardy, and that language came from his book with Dan Sullivan, 10x is easier than 2x, because he wasn't saying be a 2x version of yourself, because that just determines people's a little extra grit, a little extra grind, a little extra effort, and the 10x version of yourself is the highest and best authentic you, where you're letting so much of the other stuff go.
That's right. You know, and Dan used to always use the example, I think it was like a $10 million check, right? And so we'll just use that as an example with money. And he said, here's the situation. I'm going to write you a check for $10 million, and it's good. You know, it'll cash from me. And you go to the bank, and at the bank, the teller says, wow, congratulations, Miss Jess Webber. You are going to get $10 million from Adam Roach. That's fantastic. Though it will take 5 days to clear. And so Dan always said, when you walk out of the bank, how do you feel? Where are your shoulders? What's your thought process like? What actions are you taking today, knowing that $10 million in 5 days is going to land in your bank account with no strings attached? How do you feel? What do you do? What's your actions? What's your language? What's your demeanor? Right. And again, he wasn't using just money as the motivator there, though. You step into a 10.0 version of yourself, because whatever that money is going to do for you is probably going to solve some problems, going to help you do whatever you think you need to do, but you're still the same person. You're just a 10.0 version of yourself. Okay. So let's transition then to this last one, right? That you'll try to change your reality, right? The reality, the environment, whatever we want to say there is, this is an interesting one. Because this is where we see, Jess, if you've filled your world with new habits, and if you're trying to be someone you're not, and you go try to be in an environment or reality that is completely misaligned with you, it's going to be a disaster.
100%. And it's
going to be a disaster.
To be uncomfortable, and it's going to be draining and frustrating and all of those negative things that don't help propel you forward. I watch it time and time again where people are like, I want to show up as this person, this identity, you know, this person does these things, and this person is in these rooms, right? They're connecting with these people, or they're doing these activities, and it's completely inauthentic and out of alignment. And when that happens, they flop. Because people can smell inauthenticity faster than they can smell BO. I mean, seriously, it's so crazy. And that is why, whether you're looking or measuring somebody's success through their social media or through, you know, a company that they've built and exited or whatever it is, the people who are the most successful and the most followed, the most liked, the most whatever, are the most authentic to themselves. They're most true to themselves, and they're not trying to be somebody they're not. And they're not trying to warp their environment to be something other than exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Again, I'm going to give credit to Talking More on this topic right here. And he says something in a reel that is really good. He says, I take my weird, I think he calls it weird, right? I take my weird and I wrap my universe around my weird. And ironically, my universe gets better, right? Than trying to be different or trying to be in a room that isn't suited for his weird. He takes his weird and says, okay, this is what I'm going to create around me is things that align with my weird. And he says the universe changes around me when I do that.
Yeah. Well, when you own who you are and you're comfortable in your own skin and you're not suppressing pieces of yourself to make other people happy, you find your people, right? And the real people, not the people who are attracted to this fake identity. But you also find more opportunities, more joy in life, and all of these things when you have the ability to live out this like authentic self, or in Taki's words, live out your weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I know we've talked about it before on previous podcasts. The longest time I've been in any one role or partnership is mine with you, and I love coaching. And it's because you accept me as my full weird self. You make fun of me when we talk about dragon hoarding knowledge, and yet you respect it and appreciate it and value it. Whereas that annoyed other people, or it intimidated other people, or it threatened other people in other places that I was. And so instead of harnessing who I am and my superpowers, they decided to part ways with me because of that. And I'm like, so to me, this last piece of not trying to change your reality is the biggest piece of it, right? Because it's the world we live in, it's the environment you live in. And creating an environment that allows you to be you and achieve the goals that you're setting for yourself is only going to expedite the process faster, just like having ownership of your identity and habits that actually align with it.
Yep. Love it. Yep, exactly. So I have no doubt that this landed for you. And we want you all to have success in 2026. And we know that you will have success in 2026 when you stop doing the 3 things that we talked about here, right? And it's true. It's very, very true. And we also want you who are listening, we know that there's a space that you are probably being called to right now, and that is to serve and coach other people. And maybe you're doing it right now and you're doing it from an amateur standpoint, which means you're not charging for it. And we want to help you in that space. And we want to invite you to our upcoming challenge. Jess, let's invite them to the challenge.
We would love to have you guys join us. So you can find all the information on our 3-day challenge, which helps you create a K plus coaching offer. And again, you're building this unique to you, but the idea is that it's there to help you remove some of that imposter syndrome and some of that behavior that you might have thought was the thing that you needed to do to be successful. And it helps you build something that you get to 100% own and is authentic to you. So
That's right.
ilovecoachingco.com/challenge. You'll find all the info, the dates, and you can get registered there.
Love it. So go register for that, the next one we have, and we will see you on the next podcast. Jess, nice job today. Thank you, everybody. See you. Bye.